My name is Aiden Harper, and up until that crisp September morning in 2023, I was your average college junior at the University of Colorado Boulder, majoring in environmental science, nursing a perpetual caffeine addiction, and pretending my crushes on unavailable guys were just admiration for good bone structure. Boulder was my escape from the flat, judgmental sprawl of suburban Ohio, where coming out in high school would have been like announcing I was joining a cult. Here, amid the craft breweries and climbing gyms, I could blend in. Flannel shirts, beanie hats, and a smile that said, "I'm chill, bro," even when my insides were a storm. Theo Langford crashed into my orbit during freshman orientation, all golden boy charm and lacrosse player build, with that effortless Midwestern politeness that made you forget he was straight as a Colorado highway. He was from Denver originally, old money, the kind that funded ski trips to Aspen and family foundations for youth leadership. But he'd sloughed off the privilege like dead aspen leaves, showing up to classes in beat-up vans and quoting Jack Kerouac like it was scripture. We bonded over late-night study sessions in the Norland Library, trading stories about shitty exes, his, a string of sorority girls, mine vague its complicated flings, and dreaming up adventures to blow off steam from midterms. That hike started as a dare. Finals week had gutted us both, me buried in GIS mapping projects, Theo drowning in his poli-sci thesis on indigenous land rights. "We need to get the hell out of this concrete jungle," he'd said over greasy diner fries at the kitchen, his blue eyes lighting up like the flatirons at sunrise. Rocky Mountain National Park, Trail Ridge Road. Just you and me, no cell service, no bullshit. I laughed it off at first, picturing us lost in the wilderness. Me secretly thrilled at 48 uninterrupted hours of his laugh echoing off canyon walls. But when he slapped my back, hard, brotherly, and said, "Come on, Aiden, it'll be epic," I caved, because saying no to Theo was like saying no to gravity, pointless and painful. We packed light. My Subaru Outback loaded with a cooler of IPAs, energy bars that tasted like cardboard, and a tent we'd borrowed from the REI co-op. The drive up was pure Americana, KBCO radio crooning John Denver's Rocky Mountain High. Windows down, the scent of pine and exhaust mingling as we ascended into the park. Theo drove, one hand on the wheel, the other drumming rhythms on his thigh, belting out off-key lyrics until I joined in, our voices harmonizing in that easy way that felt like fate's cruel joke. "You know," he said, glancing over with that crooked grin, "you're the only guy I can stand being stuck with for this long. Everyone else bails when shit gets real." I swallowed hard, focusing on the ribbon of asphalt twisting through meadows dotted with elk. "Yeah, well, you're not so bad yourself, Langford. As long as you don't hog the trail mix." Inside, though, my mind was a whirlwind. Theo was straight, emphatically so, with Instagram feeds full of bikini-clad dates and locker room boasts about scoring at frat parties. But there were moments. The way his knee would brush mine under the library table, lingering a beat too long. The late-night texts about nothing, just "Hey, you up?" that kept me staring at my ceiling until dawn. I chalked it up to bromance, to the isolation of college life. But deep down, in the quiet hours when Boulder slept under a blanket of stars, I knew it was more. It was everything. By midday, we'd parked at the Bear Lake trailhead, the air crisp with the promise of autumn, leaves turning gold against the granite spires. The path to Emerald Lake was moderate, 6 miles round trip with switchbacks that climbed 700 feet. But Theo, ever the overachiever, had mapped out a detour to Sky Pond, a hidden gem tucked in a cirque basin, accessible only by a sketchy traverse over slabs and a fixed rope line. "Trust me," he'd insisted, slinging his pack higher. "The view's worth the risk." As we hiked, the world narrowed to the rhythm of boots on dirt, the trill of pikas in the talus fields, and Theo's voice weaving stories like threads in a tapestry. He talked about his dad, a state senator who'd disowned his queer uncle back in the 90s, a skeleton in the Langford closet Theo was hell-bent on exhuming for his thesis. "Family's supposed to be your anchor, right?" he said, pausing to sip from his Nalgene. "But mine feels like quicksand sometimes. Makes you wonder what else they're hiding." I nodded, my own secrets clawing at my throat. Mom back in Ohio knew I was gay. Bless her, she'd hug me tighter than ever. But Dad? He still thought it was a phase. like my old magic, the gathering obsession. We reached Alberta Falls by noon, the cascade roaring like applause, mist kissing our faces as we scarfed PB and JS on slick boulders. Theo stripped off his shirt to rinse sweat from his torso, his skin bronzed and marked with faint scars from childhood wipeouts on dirt bikes. I averted my eyes, heat rising not from the sun but from the ache in my chest. "Your turn," he teased, tossing me a damp bandana. Our fingers brushed. Electric, accidental. And for a split second, his gaze held mine, something unspoken flickering like heat lightning. The real climb began after lunch, the off-trail scramble to Sky Pond. We roped up for safety, Theo's idea, the Boy Scout in him never fully shed, clipping carabiners to anchors bolted into the rock. The slabs were glassy from recent rain, each step a gamble with friction and fate. "Easy does it," Theo coached, belaying me from above, his voice steady as the Continental Divide. I trusted him implicitly, hauling myself up hand over hand, muscles burning, lungs gasping at 10,000 feet. When I crested the ledge, he was there, hauling me the last foot, our bodies colliding in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Sky Pond shimmered below us, a turquoise jewel cradled in sheer walls, fed by meltwater from the Continental Glacier. We unclipped, sprawling on warm stone, backs against our packs. The silence was sacred. No tourists, no trails, just the whisper of wind through dwarf pines and the distant cry of a peregrine falcon. Theo sighed, content. "This is it, man. Pure freedom." I glanced at him, his profile etched against the endless blue, and felt the words bubble up. "I love you." But I bit them back, settling for, "Yeah, wouldn't trade it." As the sun dipped toward the jagged teeth of time, we packed to descend. That's when it happened, the rope snag. Theo was leading the rappel down the final pitch, a 50-foot freehang over a yawning chute. I double-checked the knots, but fatigue makes monsters of small oversights. Midway, as he weighted the line, a hidden rock shear gave way. The snap echoed like thunder, and he dropped, 10 feet, 20, flailing for purchase on vertical granite. "Theo!" My scream tore from me, raw and primal. I lunged for the belay anchor, wrapping the slack around my waist in a makeshift brake, gloves smoking as I arrested his fall. He dangled there, 30 feet below, spinning slowly, face pale as the moonrise. "Aiden, hold on." His voice cracked, not with fear, but something deeper, a vulnerability I'd never heard. My arms trembled, veins bulging like rivers under strain, every fiber screaming to let go. But I couldn't. Not him. Not now. In that suspended hell with the mountain indifferent around us, Theo looked up, not at the rock but at me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The words carried on the updraft. Sorry for what? The hike? The fall? Or for the secrets we'd both been cliffhanging over? As I inched him back up, inch by agonizing inch, I knew the real descent had just begun. By the time we stumbled back to Bear Lake Trailhead, dusk had bled into the sky, painting the peaks in bruised purples and indigos. Theo's ankle was twisted, nothing broken, but swollen enough to hobble him like a war veteran, and my hands were raw from the rope burn, blisters bubbling under the skin. We collapsed into the Subaru, the engine's rumble a lifeline as we nursed Gatorades and silence. The radio was dead up here, no signal to summon rescue or distraction. So the drive back to Boulder stretched like taffy, thick with unspoken fallout. "Thanks, man," Theo finally muttered, ice pack pressed to his joint. "You saved my ass up there." His eyes, shadowed by the dashboard glow, flicked to mine then away, like touching a live wire. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white as the snow-capped never-summer range fading in the rearview. "Yeah, well, couldn't let you turn into mountain goat chow." It was meant as a joke, but it landed flat, the air between us charged with the residue of that scream, that sorry. We didn't talk about it. Not the fall, not the moment our eyes locked over the void. Instead, Theo launched into a rambling monologue about his thesis, pivoting to safer ground. How the Ute tribes once navigated these passes on vision quests, seeking truths in the thin air. I half listened, my mind replaying the plummet in slow motion, the way his body jerked like a puppet cut loose. What if I'd been slower? What if the knot had held? But beneath the what-ifs lurked the real terror. The realization that in saving him, I'd bared my soul more than any coming-out speech could. Back in Boulder, we ditched the tent in my cramped Pearl Street apartment. A one-bedroom walk-up above a taqueria, smelling eternally of chorizo, and we'd smoke from the neighbors. Theo crashed on the futon, ankle propped on a stack of textbooks, while I brewed chamomile tea like some inadequate Florence Nightingale. "You're hovering," he teased, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. We cracked open the leftover IPAs, the fizz a feeble toast to survival, and before long, the alcohol-loosened tongues we'd both kept leashed. "You ever think about dying?" he asked out of nowhere, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. The question hung heavy, laced with the day's adrenaline crash. I shrugged, sinking into the armchair opposite him. "All the time. Climate models predict half the planet's toast by 2050. Makes you reprioritize." He nodded, slow, then, "Up there, when I fell, I thought, this is it. No goodbyes. And the first face in my head? Yours, Aiden. Not my folks, not some girl. You." My heart stuttered, tea forgotten in my lap. "Theo?" But he barreled on, voice rough as gravel. "It's fucked up, right? We're just friends. Brothers. But lately, shit, I don't know. The way you look at me sometimes, like you see through the bullshit. No one's ever done that." He rubbed his face, wincing as the movement jarred his ankle. "And now I've gone and made it weird. Forget I said anything." But I couldn't forget. The room shrank, walls pressing in with the weight of confession. I'd rehearsed this 1,000 times in my head. Dreamed of Theo piecing it together, of us kissing under the Chautauqua stars. But not like this, not battered and booze loosened on my thrift store rug. "It's not weird," I said softly, the words a leap off my own cliff. "Theo, Yves. I've been in love with you since that stupid orientation mixer. Your laugh, your rants about systemic inequality, the way you fold your damn socks like origami. But you're straight. Or I thought you were. So I buried it." Silence crashed down, thicker than the Long's Peak thunderheads. Theo sat up, ankle be damned. His face a map of shock and something softer, uncharted. "Aiden. Fuck." He reached out, hand hovering midair, then dropped it. "I'm not. I've dated girls, slept with them, but it's always felt like acting. Like I'm chasing some script everyone's handed me. Dad's script. Frat house script. And with you, God, it's real. Terrifying real." We talked until the tea went cold and the neighbor's bass thumped into dawn. About his uncle, the disowned ghost who died of AIDS in the 90s. A story Theo's family whispered like a curse. About my first crush, a theater kid in high school who'd ghosted me after prom. About the fear of labels in a world still carving rainbows into battle lines. By sunrise, filtering golden through the blinds, we'd inched closer. Not touching, but orbiting, a tentative solar system. The next week blurred into a fever dream of stolen moments. Theo skipped lacrosse practice to ice his ankle, showing up at my labs with coffee runs and inside jokes that made my lab partners raise eyebrows. We hiked gentler trails, El Dorado Canyon, where the sandstone walls glowed like embers, and talked for hours, unpacking the baggage we dragged up those mountains. He admitted to experimenting once, drunk at a party in his dorm, with a visiting lacrosse recruit from California. It was quick, awkward, but it didn't freak me out, just confused me. I shared my own fumblings, the grinder hookups that left me emptier than before, the ache for something deeper than skin. Felt like the start of us, cautious, exhilarating. One evening, after a showing of Brokeback Mountain at the Boulder International Film Festival, his pick, ironic and bold, we walked back hand in hand under street lamps, fingers laced like it was the most natural thing. "This scares the shit out of me," he confessed, squeezing tighter as we passed a gaggle of undergrads. "What if it changes everything?" I stopped, pulling him into the shadow of a bookstore awning. "It already has, and that's okay." But the mountain's shadow lingered, a harbinger I ignored in the glow of possibility. Theo's thesis defense loomed, a panel of tenured profs who adored his fire but eyed his personal biases like fault lines. And then there was Lila, his ex from sophomore year, a poli-sci TA with razor wit and a trust fund, who'd been texting him for notes that reeked of reconciliation. I met her once, at a campus mixer. All glossy waves and knowing smiles, the kind of woman who made you feel like a side quest. The betrayal brewed slow, like a storm front rolling over the plains. It hit on a Thursday, rain lashing my apartment windows as I prepped for a group project. Theo was late, uncharacteristic, and when he finally buzzed up, soaked and sheepish, I smelled her perfume on his collar, jasmine and regret. "Lila cornered me after seminar," he said, peeling off his jacket. She kissed me. I didn't stop it fast enough. My stomach plummeted, sharper than any rappel. Why not? The question was a knife, slipping out before I could sheath it. He deflated, collapsing onto the futon. I don't know. Panic? Proving something? Aiden, it's not "I love you," but she's safe. Familiar. And with the thesis, Dad breathing down my neck about settling down. His voice trailed, excuses crumbling under my stare. We argued, raw voices rising over the downpour, about trust, about the closet he was still half in, about how love isn't a switch you flip when the wind changes. "You're asking me to blow up my life," he shouted, face flushed. "For what? A maybe?" I turned away, chest caving. "For us, or nothing." He left in the rain, door slamming like a guillotine. The apartment echoed with ghosts. Empty beer cans from our epic night, the tent still smelling of pine. I curled on the floor, sobs racking me until exhaustion claimed me, dreaming of falls without nets. Days bled into a numb routine. Classes, coffee, avoiding the lacrosse fields where Theo's laughter used to echo. Mutual friends noticed. The pitying texts from our study group, the "everything okay?" from my roommate Jess. I threw myself into fieldwork, mapping erosion patterns along the South Platte, dirt under nails a poor substitute for distraction. But the hurt festered, a bruise blooming black and blue. Then, the call came on a Friday night, Theo's name lighting my screen like a flare. "Aiden, please, thesis is done." Panel loved it, but I fucked up. "Meet me at Chautauqua. Now." My resolve cracked, treacherous as shale. I drove through twilight, the meadow alive with fireflies, heart hammering as I spotted him on the Ranger Cottage steps. Alone, backpack at his feet, the same one from our hike. The air at Chautauqua carried the scent of sage and impending rain, the kind that scrubbed boulders' sins clean before they set. Theo stood as I approached, shadows carving hollows under his eyes. The golden boy dimmed to tarnished silver. "You came," he breathed, like it had been a gamble. I shoved hands in my pockets, the gravel crunching under my boots, a countdown to whatever bomb he was about to drop. "Yeah, don't make me regret it." He led me to the meadow's edge, away from the evening hikers winding up the trails, and we sat on a weathered bench overlooking the city lights twinkling like fallen stars. No preamble, just the truth spilling out in fits and starts. Lila and I. It was one night, a rebound, a stupid anchor to the old me. But it wasn't her I wanted. It was escape. From you, from this. He gestured vaguely at his chest. Then mine. I ghosted because facing it meant admitting I'm not who everyone thinks. Not straight. Not the Langford heir with the perfect playbook. Rain began to patter, soft at first, then insistent, soaking through our hoodies. I didn't move, the chill grounding me as his words sank in. "So what now? You dip back into the closet when Dad calls? Or is this your big queer awakening? Cue rainbows and therapy." Sarcasm was my shield, sharp as the flatirons silhouetted against the storm. Theo winced, rain streaking his face like tears. "Fuck you, Aiden. I'm trying here." I told my advisor about the uncle, the whole story, not the sanitized version. And Dad, I emailed him, said I'm done pretending. For the thesis, for the family, for me. He pulled out his phone, screen glowing with the draft. "I'm gay, Dad." or by whatever the label. But I'm done hiding. Love you anyway. Sent an hour ago. Unread. My breath hitched, the vulnerability hitting harder than the wind. Why now? He met my eyes, steady for the first time since the fall. Because losing you on that mountain was worse than any drop. I replay it, your hand reaching, that look in your eyes, like I was worth saving. And I want to be. For you. The dam broke then. Not with a kiss, but a hug, fierce and soaking, arms wrapping around each other as thunder grumbled approval. We stayed like that until the rain eased, whispering apologies into damp collars, rebuilding bridges one splintered plank at a time. Slow, I murmured against his shoulder. No scripts. Just us. He nodded, pulling back with a grin that pierced the clouds. Deal. Starting with pizza at mine, my roommates out. The weeks that followed were a tentative tango. Dates disguised as hangouts, hands brushing in lecture halls, stolen kisses in the alcoves of the Fisk Planetarium. Theo came out piecemeal. First to his thesis advisor, a no-nonsense lesbian prof who high-fived him over craft lattes. Then to the lacrosse team, over post-practice beers at the bitter bar, where half cheered and the rest mumbled awkward support. Whispers rippled through campus. Langford's gay. No way, but Boulder, with its progressive pulse, absorbed it like monsoon water into parched earth. We built rituals. Sunday scrambles up the third Flatiron, where the exposure mirrored our exposure. Movie nights with Call Me by Your Name on repeat, dissecting Timothy Chalamet's heartbreak over homemade popcorn. Drives to Netherland for bluegrass festivals, windows down, his hand on my thigh like a promise. Sex wasn't the goal. We were both virgins to this, fumbling through emotional foreplay. But the intimacy was electric, bodies learning each other in the language of touch. Fingers tracing collarbones, breaths sinking in the dark. Yet conflict simmered beneath the surface, American as apple pie and pitchforks. Theo's family Thanksgiving loomed. A Denver estate affair with senators and socialites, where queerness was a punchline at best, a scandal at worst. Come with, he begged one night, tangled in my sheets after a particularly vulnerable make-out session that left us both breathless and beaming. Show them we're real. I hesitated, the invite a double-edged sword, validation or target practice. In the end, I went, neutral wool sweater, slacks that screamed respectable ally, more than proud boyfriend. The Langford home was a monument to old Colorado. Timber beams, crystal decanters of bourbon, walls lined with photos of Theo in Little League uniforms, arm in arm with a dad who looked like a Ken doll gone corporate. Senator Langford, 6'2", silver-templed, handshake like a vice. Eyed me over his pipe as we arrived, Theo's grip on my elbow a silent stay. Aiden Harper, environmental whiz kid. Theo introduced, voice steady but laced with steel. My partner. The word landed like a stone in a still pond, ripples widening. Mrs. Langford, elegant, Botox smooth, smiled tightly, offering a flute of mimosa that tasted of obligation. Dinner was a minefield. Turkey dry as policy papers, conversation skirting climate accords and Ivy League pipelines, until Theo's cousin Jake, a beer-bellied accountant with a MAGA pin on his lapel, cracked wise about woke Boulder snowflakes ruining real America. Like what, Jake? Two guys loving each other instead of chasing your third ex-wife's alimony. The table froze, silverware suspended mid-air. Senator Langford cleared his throat, face reddening like a stoplight. Theodore James, that's enough. But Theo was a dam burst, words flooding. The uncle's story unexpurgated. The hypocrisy of a man who'd preached family values while burying his own. The exhaustion of performing heteronormativity for a legacy built on it. Aiden's shown me what real strength is. Facing the world without a mask. Maybe try it sometime, Dad. I sat silent, hand under the table squeezing Theo's knee, heart pounding as the room fractured. Jake stormed out, muttering about indoctrination. Aunt Clara dabbed tears, whispering support. The senator retreated to his study, door clicking shut like a verdict. Mrs. Langford lingered, touching Theo's cheek. He's processing, darling. Give him time. We left early, The drive back to Boulder a blur of streetlights and Theo's quiet sobs. My arm around him as he grieved the family he was reshaping. "You were brave," I said, pulling into my lot. He turned, eyes red-rimmed but fierce. "We were." That night, we made love for the first time. Not rushed, not scripted, but a revelation. Slow explorations in the lamplight, laughter mingling with gasps, bodies affirming what words couldn't. Afterward, curled against him, I traced the scar on his shoulder from a childhood fall. "This is us now," I whispered. Scarred, but standing. But peaks precede valleys, and our high was about to crater. Finals hit like a blizzard, burying us in deadlines, and Theo's focus splintered. Late nights at the library turning into all-nighters with Lila's study group. Her TA status a siren call to easy A's. I trusted him, or tried to, but jealousy gnawed like porcupine quills. One night, scrolling Instagram in a haze of exhaustion, I saw it. A tagged photo from the sink, a dive bar crawl, Theo's arms slung around Lila, her head on his shoulder, caption. "Reunited and it feels so good, thesis survivors." The stab was visceral, breath leaving me in a whoosh. Text. Call? No. I drove to his off-campus house, rain-slick roads mirroring my slide into doubt. He answered the door in sweats, hair tousled, confusion creasing his brow. "Aiden? It's 2 a.m. I thrust the phone at him, the image glaring. "Explain." His face drained of color. "It's nothing. Bar hop with the group." She leaned in for the pic. I didn't think. Rage boiled over, hot and unbidden. Didn't think? Or didn't care? This is what you do when dad disapproves. Run back to the straight line. He recoiled, hurt flashing. "That's not fair. I'm fighting for us. Every day. But you're bailing at the first bump." The argument escalated, voices echoing off peeling wallpaper, accusations flying like hail. My insecurity, his evasions, the fragility of a love still green. Maybe the mountain was a sign. I hurled, the words poison even as they left my lips. "We can't climb this without one of us falling." Theo's eyes shattered, voice breaking. "Then jump, Aiden. But don't blame me when you hit bottom." I fled into the storm, tires hydroplaning on University Avenue, tears blurring the taillights. Back home, I packed a duffel, essentials for a solo retreat to the park, needing the mountain's indifference to mend what humans had mauled. As I loaded the car at dawn, a text pinged. "I'm sorry. I love you. Don't go." But pride is a stubborn mule, and I hit the gas, heading west toward the divide, toward solitude. The drive to Rocky Mountain National Park felt like penance. Asphalt unspooling under gray skies that wept in sympathy. I'd booked a backcountry permit on a whim, solo trek to Isolation Lake. A misnomer, since isolation was exactly what I craved. A wilderness baptism to wash away the grime of betrayal. No Theo, no campus gossip. Just me, my pack, and the relentless rhythm of one foot before the other. The rangers at the Kawunich entrance raised eyebrows at my permit. Rough solo kid, bear country's no joke. But I waved it off with a tight smile, the weight of 35 pounds on my back a masochistic anchor. The trail to Isolation was a beast. 12 miles in, gaining 2,500 feet through lodgepole thickets and scree fields, culminating in a boulder hop ford of the North Fork. By midday, sweat plastered my shirt to my skin, blisters were forming on heels raw from the last hike. Elk bugled in the distance, a haunting counterpoint to my labored breaths, and I paused at a overlook, gulping water that tasted of iodine tabs. Below, the Kawunich Valley sprawled like a rumpled quilt, golden aspens stitching the evergreens. Beautiful, brutal, a mirror to the mess in my chest. Theo's texts piled up like storm debris. "Please talk to me. It was a mistake. I need you." But I powered off my phone at the trailhead, embracing the silence like a penance. Why had I run? Fear, sure, the photo a knife twist in old wounds, but deeper, a terror of loving so hard it hollowed you out. We'd built something fragile, a glass house on a fault line, and one crack had threatened to shatter it all. Yet as I crested Finch Lake Pass, wind whipping my face, I wondered if running was just another fall, gravity's easy pull. Camp at Isolation was a scraped clearing by the shore, loons calling across waters black as ink under twilight. I pitched the tent with mechanical precision, boiled ramen over a whisper-light stove, and journaled by headlamp. Pages of fury and fondness, ink bleeding where tears dotted the paper. He chose you once on the cliff. Choose him back? Sleep came fitful, dreams of plummets and outstretched hands, waking to frost on the fly and a sky bruising purple. Day 2 dawned crystalline. The traverse to Lion Lake's a symphony of alpine glow, columbine nodding in meadows, ptarmigan flushing from underfoot. I pushed hard, summiting empty Ida's shoulder by noon, the exposure a vertigo-inducing slab where one slip meant a 1,000-foot slide into Nevermore Basin. Clipping into a makeshift harness, Theo's old climbing sling, tucked in my pack like a talisman. I inched across, heart in throat, whispering mantras. Breathe. Trust the rock. At the crux, wind gusting 40 knots, a loose chunk calved under my boot, sending me skidding inches from the edge. Panic surged, the abyss yawning, and in that heartbeat, I saw him. Not the photo, not the fight, but Theo's face on the rappel, eyes locked in desperate faith. I hauled back, trembling, and crested the ridge to a vista that stole breath. The Mummy Range marching north, Long's Peak a sentinel in the south, lakes below like chips of sapphire. Collapsing in scree, I wept, not for loss but release. The mountain didn't care about labels or betrayals. It endured, scarred but standing. Maybe we could too. Signal flickered at higher elevations, so I powered on the phone mid-descent, notifications avalanche. Missed calls, voicemails thick with Theo's voice, hoarse, pleading. The last, Aiden, Dad called. Read the email. He's trying. Coming to Boulder next week. But without you, it's ash. I'm at the trailhead. If you're out there. Timestamp. Yesterday. My thumb hovered over reply. Then wait for me. North Inlet Trail. Be there tomorrow. The hike out was purgatory. Blisters bursting, quads screaming. But buoyed by purpose, I flew down switchbacks. Ford the Cache La Poudre at dusk, emerging trail-worn at the trailhead as stars pricked the ink-black sky. Theo's Jeep idled under the entry kiosk, headlights cutting fog, and there he was, leaning on the hood, bundled in a Patagonia puffy, face lighting like bioluminescence when he saw me. Aiden. He crossed the lot in 3 strides, enveloping me in wool and worry, the hug fierce enough to crack ribs. I buried my face in his neck, inhaling pine and home. I'm sorry, we chorused, then laughed. The sound brittle but real. Over PB and JS in the Jeep, engines humming against the chill, we unpacked the interim. His confession to Lila, done for good, the photo a dumb, drunk impulse. My solo epiphany, the mountain's lesson in persistence. I almost fell again, I admitted, showing the scraped palms. Thought of you. Pulled me back. He kissed them, gentle as snowfall. Always will. We drove back under a canopy of stars, hands entwined over the console. The divide behind us, but its truths carried forward. Re-entry to Boulder was a whirlwind. Senator Langford's visit, awkward coffees at Ozo's where apologies flowed stilted but sincere. I was wrong, son. About a lot. And a family dinner that, while not fireworks, simmered with tentative warmth. Theo's coming out rippled wider. Campus pride events where we marched hand in hand. His lacrosse jersey swapped for a rainbow armband. A podcast interview for his thesis, now expanded into a queer indigenous rights angle, voice steady as he owned his story. But climax brewed in the unlikeliest storm. Spring break. A road trip to Moab we'd planned pre-fiasco, testing our mended seams. The desert was antithesis to mountains. Red rock arches, slot canyons like veins of fire, but its exposure was psychic, no trees to hide behind. We camped under delicate arch, cooking foil packet trout over coals, and as embers died, Theo turned serious. Marry me? Not now, but someday, when we're ready. The proposal hung, moon-silvered, my heart swelling. Yes? I whispered, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of sage and forever. But dawn brought the twist. A ranger's radio crackle, flash flood warning, Slot Canyon downstream swelling from upstream rains. Our planned hike into Corona Arch? Closed. Detour to Negro Bill, now Grandstaff, risky but doable. We bail? Theo asked, pack half-strapped. I shook my head. Together. The canyon narrowed fast, walls towering 300 feet, the Virgin River a burbling serpent at our feet. We waded ankle-deep at first, then knee, laughter echoing off sandstone as we splashed like kids. But upstream thunderheads darkened the slot, and within the hour, the trickle roared to a chocolate torrent, walls funneling fury. Run! Theo yelled, grabbing my hand as the surge hit, waist-high, debris-laden, slamming us against boulders. Panic clawed. Flash floods kill more hikers than bears. But we linked arms, scrambling for high ground, a ledge 10 feet up. Theo boosted me first, then reached, fingers inches from mine when a log broadsided him, sweeping him downstream in a froth of whitewater. Tao! The scream was primal, déjà vu from the Rockies, as he surfaced, gasping, pinned against a pour-over. No rope, no belay, just instinct. I down-climbed the slick wall, ignoring the drop, plunging into the maelstrom to reach him. The current clawed like talons, but I hooked his pack strap, hauling with everything. Legs braced, lungs burning, until he broke free, collapsing beside me on the ledge as the flood peaked below. A monster denied its meal. Soaked, shivering, we clung, alive, unbroken. Never again, he gasped, forehead to mine. No more cliffs without you.
L'auteur bubbled, hystérical, à 6 rangs weld distant, rescue chopé en route.
In that suspended adrenaline, with canyon walls our cathedral, I knew we'd fallen 1,000 times, but always reached. Rescue came at midday, a Park Service helo winching us out like action heroes from a bad 90s flick, drying blankets, electrolyte drips, and a stern lecture on hydrology from a mustachioed ranger who looked like Sam Elliott's gruff cousin. You boys got guardian angels? Or you're just too damn stubborn to drown? Theo, bandaged but beaming, squeezed my hand as the medevac van ferried us to Moab Regional. Stubborn. Definitely that. Discharged by evening. Concussions ruled out. Just bruises and a story for the ages. We holed up in a kitschy motel off Highway 191. Neon cactus sign buzzing like a heartbeat. The room smelled of Lysol and regret, but we made it ours. Take-out burritos from Quesadilla Mobilis spread on the comforter. Shitty cable flickering a Rockies game neither watched. Theo propped against pillows, ankle freshly wrapped. Old injury flaring. Traced patterns on my arm. That was too close. He murmured, voice raw from swallowed water. Felt like the universe testing us. Again. I nodded, feeding him a bite of carnitas, the domesticity a bomb. Maybe it's prepping us. For the Real Falls life, not floods. We talked deep into the night. Future sketched in hypotheticals, grad school for me in hydrology, law for him with an eye on environmental policy. A shared apartment off Pearl, hikes turned habit, the what-ifs of kids via surrogacy or adoption, a family forged not inherited. Your dad came around, I said, remembering the post-Thanksgiving emails, tentative olive branches. Mine's still thawing, but he'll get there.
Theo log rumba. Soap?
Langfords are slow burns. But yeah, progress. Sleep claimed us tangled. The desert wind crooning through cracked windows, dreams mercifully dry. Spring break segued to semester's end, boulder blooming riotous. Lilacs heavy on the breeze, flatirons dusted in wild iris. Graduation loomed for Theo's cohort, a milestone laced bittersweet. I'd begged off law school apps for a master's deferral, chasing fieldwork in the San Juans. Our rhythm solidified. Pride flags in windows, couples yoga at core power. Me flexible, him grumbling through downward dogs. Brunches at Linger where we dissected moonlight over kiloquiles. Its fractured intimacies a mirror held gentle. But betrayal's echo lingered. A low hum. Lila transferred credits to CU Denver. Proximity a thorn, and though Theo blocked her, sighting stung. Her at the farmer's market, eyes lingering too long. A mutual friend's wedding invite listing her as +1. Ignore it? Theo urged during a tense coffee run. But doubt is a weed, choking trust. The real fracture hit in June. Heat wave baking the Front Range. When Senator Langford summoned Theo to D.C. for a networking summit, code for grooming the heir apparent. He went, reluctant, promising daily calls. The first night, gushing about cherry blossoms and Capitol Hill schmoozes. Day 3, shorter, distracted, mentions of a colleague's daughter, sharp, like you, slipping in innocuous. By day 5, radio silence, then a curt text, busy, talk soon. My imagination ran riot. Old patterns, the photos ghost, and when he finally rang, voice muffled by static, it spilled. Dad's pushing this internship with a firm that reps fossil fuels. And there's this gala, with interns. This networking, Aiden. Nothing more. The lie tasted metallic even through pixels. Like Lila was study group? Silence stretched. Then, don't do this. Trust me. But trust, once cracked, leaks. I hung up, pacing my sublet, the apartment's emptiness a void. Days blurred. Bar shifts at the bitter, pouring IPAs for oblivious patrons. Solo runs up Flagstaff, lungs burning betrayal into endorphins. Jess, my old roommate, staged an intervention over gelato at Pixini's. He's scared, Aid. Family pressure's a bitch. But you're his North Star. Don't eclipse it. Her words lingered, a seed in fallow soil. When Theo returned, tanned, tie loosened, eyes shadowed. He found me at the airport curb, signs scrawled on cardboard. Langford, you're an idiot, but mine. He dropped his duffel, crushing me in a hug that smelled of airplane pretzels and relief. I fucked up. He confessed over the drive, spilling the summit. Dad's veiled ultimatums. Choose your future wisely. The gala flirtations rebuffed but tempting, a siren's call to normalcy. I almost caved. For him. For the easy path. But every time I saw you on that ledge in the flood. You're my why. We rebuilt, brick by honest brick. Couples counseling at the campus health center, where a wry therapist unpacked generational trauma over Zoom. A pact. No family event solo, always tandem. Date nights intentional, like stargazing at Brainerd Lake, meteor shower streaking as we vowed resilience. Summer waned in a haze of heat and healing. Theo interning at a Boulder nonprofit, advocating for queer youth in the outdoors. Me leading teen backpacking trips, channeling our story into mentorship. Fall brought renewal. My master's acceptance, his bar exam prep laced with pro bono cases for trans asylum seekers. We moved in together. A shotgun rental on Spruce, creaky floors and a porch swing overlooking Mapleton Hill. Christening it with IKEA assembly fails and Theo's burnt pancakes. The mountain called again. Anniversary hike to Sky Pond. Same route, same rope, but this time, we summit laughing. No falls, just the pond's mirror reflecting two men. Hands clasped, unbroken. Yet the humanistic core, the raw, redemptive ache, crystallized at Theo's family reunion. A sprawling Aspen affair where old wounds reopened. Dad, softer now with a rainbow pin on his lapel, begrudgingly pinned by Theo, pulled me aside by the roaring fork. You saved him, son. More than once. No grand redemption, just acknowledgement. A step on the trail. Jake skipped, but Aunt Clara baked a cake iced with love winds. And as we gathered around the fire pit, Esmore's sticky-fingered, Theo leaned in. This is family. Messy, but ours. The end isn't tidy, no sweeping biopic fade to credits. Life's a switchback. Conflicts recur, betrayals scar but fade. Love a muscle worked tender. We've fallen. Cliffs, floods, fights, and risen, each time surer. Last week, under a harvest moon on the West Ridge, Theo proposed for real. No knee, just a ring from a queer jeweler in Rhino, forged from recycled climbing gear. All in? He asked, eyes like alpine lakes. All in? I echoed, sealing it with salt-kissed lips. And so we climb on, toward summits unseen, ropes knotted tight, the mountain our witness. In America's wild heart, where divides run deep but bridges span them, we've found our way. Not perfect, profoundly human. Together,